This is the 19th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, X-Zone Lures, Shoreline Boat and RV Repair, Spro, Gamakatsu, Big Bite Baits, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning, and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. Exciting show today. You know, we like to throw a little love to the West Coast, whether that be Ken Ma or Todd Kline or Billy Egan. We got two of those on today. We got Billy Egan from One Bass and then Todd Kline in the second half of the show. Some big stuff going on the West Coast. There's been a lot of stuff going on the West Coast over the last 6 months if you follow the tournament news out there. But U.S. Open just wrapped up, and very well-known West Coast pro Kyle Grover got the W in that. So we'll talk to Billy Egan about that. But shortly after the U.S. Open came a massive announcement with a little bit of a meat on the bone for the West Coast guys looking to get into the Bassmaster, the Bass Angler Sportsman Society, the Bass Nation Series game, and kind of an exciting announcement along those lines. And then second half of the show, we're going to have Todd Kline on to talk about, as a West Coast angler who fishes a lot of the things that are offered on the West Coast, kind of what that means for him and his fellow competitors. So let's get right to it. Let's bring in Billy Egan. What did Jeffries used to call you? The man who makes things happen? Is that what he called you? I couldn't remember that. I was going to bring you in, but I didn't want to call you the wrong thing.
Among other things, but yeah, that's what he used to call me predominantly, the man that makes things happen for One Bass. So yeah, it's and you know, when I put the trophy on my head, all that good stuff when we first started doing our live broadcasts. So
yeah, it is Billy Egan. I do want to mention recorded show today. I'm currently in. This is my first full day on the boat in El Salto. First time ever down at Mexico. So I hopefully am catching big bass on every cast on whatever. You ever been down there, Billy?
I've been there 3 times. Fortunately, the first time I went out there was probably 12 years ago when I was still all about swim baits and packed the whole bag full of all my custom baits and other swim baits from other makers. And, you know, first day and a half through it consistently and watched the guide and the other guys in my boat catch them on lipless crankbaits and 10-inch worms all day long and wouldn't get bit, and finally grabbed the rod out of the guide's hand and was tired of not catching a fish. So went to the juice, you know, to the lipless crankbaits and 10-inch worms, and, you know, really caught the snot out of them. Went with Josh Bertrand one time with Berkeley.
Oh, cool.
We just caught the heck out of them. So my one word of advice is you could, you know, swing for the fences with a bigger bait, but just throw the tried and true 10-inch lizards or 10-inch worms and lipless crankbaits and catch the hell out of them and have a great time.
I'm a little intrigued. So I've done some research. I'm going with my buddy who's been down there 5 or 6 times. And he's like, dude, he's like every other time they'll get on like a big spook bite. And it kind of depends on the water level and what it is. So I am hoping that when we're down there, we can be throwing like the saltwater spooks or those big shower blows or something of that nature.
Yeah,
and get those fish on top.
It depends on the time of year and the lily pads and how big the lily pads have gotten, because they can kind of take over that lake at times. But that and the tilapia nets, if guys have tilapia nets out, it kind of limits a little bit of the areas that you can fish. But it's an amazing fishery. You'll have a blast. You'll catch a 10-pounder probably. Gotten multiple 10-pounders down there. So it's a lot of fun.
I'm just excited because apparently, like, when you get off the plane, there's a Pacifico waiting on you. When you come in for lunch, there's a Pacifico waiting on you. And Pacifico is my number one tried and true adult beverage of choice. So I'm excited to go down there and be at El Salto drinking a Pacifico.
That'll be available at every turn. Basically, they'll have them in the cooler on the pongas that you're fishing on, or the bass boats that you're fishing on.
Okay.
Full of them. So, and limes, they come prepared, man.
I would imagine you may have had a celebratory drink or two with the recent announcement. We'll get to that first. I want to first talk about the recently concluded U.S. Open, second year on Mojave. I believe it's been announced it's next year on Mojave, which will make it 3 years on Mojave. But Kyle Grover, well-known West Coast angler, wire-to-wire win in the U.S. Open this year.
Yeah, Kyle did an amazing job. All the other anglers that supported the U.S. Open and have for many years. It was in my 14 years. I just completed my 14th year of running bass fishing tournaments with the culmination of the last Arizona Open that just finished. But the U.S. Open this year, by far, hands down, was 100% the best event we've ever run on all aspects. On running a tournament, on the social media side, on the activities, on the partnerships, on the 3 days of great weather, 3 days of good fishing, great stage, great sponsors. I mean, it was like, putting years and years of work together and finally sitting back and going, we knocked it out of the park with this one. It was an amazing year. Kyle did an amazing job. Lots of guys did real well. It was real tight there with Patrick Toohey, the last final minute with the Bass Cat hot seat that we always do with our final day. And, either one of them would have made great champions, but Kyle came out on top. Him and his father have been a long-time supporter out here out west. Kyle's no stranger to the podium. And, he's been, like he said in most of his interviews, he's been looking forward to winning the U.S. Open since he was 14. So it finally happened. But the beauty of it is just because he won it, the fire's not extinguished. You want to get out there and win another one. He'll go back every year. He's been a great supporter of WAM-BASS and Western fishing in general. And with our schedule next year, he's all in. His dad's going to be fishing a few as well. So we're looking forward to a great year. But, one of the great things was we had Bass 365 come on out. We had more coverage at the U.S. Open, and they did a great job covering it. We've got a new company that we're working with our social media production as well. So they had 2 people out there doing some filming and some photography, and the whole package just kind of came together perfectly. And it was just, the story was told, and lots of people were watching, as always with the U.S. Open, but this one was a special year for sure.
I can't even remember who I had on. It was a couple weeks ago, and I had him on, and I was talking about how when you took over the U.S. Open, that you did such a good job of taking it national. It was a national tournament. It's called the U.S. Open, but there wasn't as much publicity or coverage of it coast to coast, and then you didn't get a lot of anglers come from the east to the west coast until you really made a push. I think you have to be proud. I mean, Zaldain's a west coast guy, but it says Texas on his stuff. He's from Texas. Now you had people come from, in the top 25, you had Arkansas, Texas, Tennessee, and Pennsylvania. Kind of talk about when you really decided that you were going to push to make this thing bigger, not just the quote unquote classic of the West. And then from where you started to where it is now has to make you feel really proud. And that will dovetail nicely into the announcement that you and Bassmaster just made.
I told myself I wouldn't do this when I was.
Are you getting emotional, Billy?
Well, I'm an emotional guy. And, I thought about you asking this question before you did. I had a feeling you would. And Aaron Martins.
Yep.
We don't say his name enough. He was the anchor that put the fire in my belly to make the U.S. Open great again. I don't mean to steal that tagline right now, but literally 2010, I had never run a tournament in my life. I had gone to one Pro-Am event at Lake Mojave with Harvey Naslund, where Paul Bailey clinched Angler of the Year race that year. Went to the 2010 WAM-BASS U.S. Open, where Harvey Naslund put on the Tribute to the Legends dinner, which for a guy that was just excited to be around bass fishing tournaments, because when Western Outdoors hired me, they hired me to run 3 family fun events, a couple trout tournaments and a striper derby that they've been doing for 35 years or 30 some years at that time. And I was all about the bass because I was completely head over heels about swim baiting and bass fishing and big baits and big fish. So I wanted to do anything I could to be involved with WAM-BASS at the time. And so I went to that tribute to the legends. I volunteered to help Harvey in every aspect that he needed to get that evening and that event done and, produced. Because Harvey taught me really quickly in a very short amount of time that I had to work with him that, running tournaments and putting on events is giving people a show, something that gives them something of value. They have a great time. They leave saying, I can't wait to get back because it was an experience that they'll never forget. And literally at the end of that Friday night, tribute to the legends, which was 3 days before the U.S. Open started, Harvey looked at me and said, the U.S. Open's yours, buddy. And I was like, what? He's like, you got it. I'm not feeling well. He had brain cancer at the time. He hadn't told a whole lot of people about it. He's like, I'm tired. The U.S. Open's yours. And I'm like, wait a minute. I've never run a tournament in my life. And you want me to run the U.S. Open? And he just said, trust in your instincts. I know you got it, kid. Go for it. And, we all know what kind of happened. My first event out of the gate, catching a guy and going from nobody knowing a tournament director.
Oh, that was your first tournament as a tournament director?
My introduction to bass fishing tournaments.
No way.
You got a cheater. We caught him. I don't want to bring up all that stuff again. That was my introduction to tournament directing. So
long story short, no one knows about this. It was the walleye scenario before the walleye scenario happened. End of discussion. Right. That's all we need to say. But you caught him, and it was a deal at the time. But you immediately were tested.
I didn't know anything really about bass fishing, the traditions, the way things typically worked. I was the new guy. So when that happened, at the time, Western Bass was the only place that people really went to kind of post on the forums. And I got up to the hotel at 11 o'clock that night after running my first U.S. Open and dealing with that whole situation and watching everybody go south on how it happened, what they saw. And, and to me, transparency is everything. So I wrote this big, long paragraph, essay, if you will, on the truth and nothing but the truth about it, how exactly it happened, what we did, how we caught it, what we were going to do, and what our stance was. And everybody all of a sudden went, who the hell is this guy? Tournament directors don't talk about this stuff. They don't come out in the open and just, keep it
lay it all out there
under the rug. So I went from everybody not knowing me to who the hell's this guy, and it's been a journey. But again, Aaron Martins was the original igniter of the fire in me to help bring WAM-BASS and bass fishing in the West back to its greatness. There had been some hurdles prior to me getting there. There was a couple of U.S. Opens that weren't run when things were going through transitions. Heck, the very first U.S. Open I ran, I think we had 112 boats. And there weren't a whole lot of guys still coming from back east to do it because it kind of lost a little bit of the fire. And it built slowly, putting the effort into it. I think we reached, I used to say, geez, I used to fish during the U.S. Open. When I was younger running these tournaments, I found time to fish during the time of running a U.S. Open. And I look at the guys go, I don't know how the hell I did that back then. They're like, well, you only had 112 boats. Now you got over 200 boats coming to the U.S. Open, or nearly 200 boats, or 280 we had one time. It's been an amazing ride. It's easier when you're picking up the work and efforts of many people before you. WAM-BASS has been around for over 40 years. The Twilliger family has been at the helm ever since it started. It's a family-run company, just like the one we're going to be talking about in a few minutes. It's tradition and a long-standing of being transparent and doing what you say you're going to do, giving away what you say you're going to give away, and giving everybody a platform to be to elevate themselves either in their angling or in their sponsorship, and selling more boats, selling more reels, getting more people involved with fishing.
I know a lot of people have heard about the U.S. Open because of the work that you've done with it, but if you don't follow that West Coast, clearly you also run, and you mentioned you just finished up the Arizona Open, I believe it was, but you also run basically a kind of a tournament series that leads up to the U.S. Open. Next year, you guys are on Shasta, Clear Lake, Havasu, and Lake Mead prior to the U.S. Open, which is October 14th through 16th. This is kind of where the announcement with the Bass Nation and Bassmaster comes into play. Yeah, and this was kind of out of left field for me. I didn't see this. It makes 100% sense once you understand it and see it. But you can't do a show where it's MLF hates the West Coast, Bassmaster hates the West Coast. They've canceled Elite Series events out there. They don't have the Western Opens anymore, especially with this new Bass Nation. The furthest west is the furthest west that they go, basically, I think, is going to be Oklahoma when it comes to the Bass Nation. But talk a little bit, and I'll throw the website up with the information and the press release on it. But talk a little bit about how you guys partnered with Bass and what that means for the West Coast anglers and their ability. It's a carrot. It's still a carrot. It's a carrot out there, but at least there's something to munch on.
Yeah, nothing happens overnight. Obviously, there's a lot of work, a lot of talking going on between myself and the crew over at Bassmaster. It started, about 5-6 years ago, and it was just an idea, not a conversation piece, because Wombass has been around for 40+ years now. It's has great sustainability in the industry. There is no black eyes, if you will, throughout the history of Wombass. We've always run a great ship, and fortunately for me, I've been at the helm now for 14 years of it. And many years ago, I started planting a seed with Bassmaster and the group over there about getting involved and utilizing Wombass to help with their exposure in the West, because doesn't take rocket science to figure out for a company back east to come out here and run one event, let alone a couple events. It's a $350,000 investment just to move the trucks, the boats, the people to get out here to run an event. If you're not getting funding from the cities or your return, it's hard to make a decision to take that investment to go out west when you've got so much water and so much viability out east. So, over the years, I've watched, the guys out here get disappointed because a business makes business decisions that make business sense to that business, and try to find a common ground between ourselves and Bassmaster throughout the years, and communicating with them on the opportunity to use us and our resources out west to enhance their ability to reach our anglers and to give them a reason to chase the dream, but not have to leave their family and their wives and their day-to-day life to go chase that dream. So it's augmented over the years. Originally the dream was, hey, let's get a classic berth right out of Wombass or the U.S. Open, or our events are great, it's worth it, but through the conversations with Chase, who's an amazing person, amazing family, amazing job with Bassmaster, Chris Bowes, Hank Weldon, GL Compton, those guys, we learned real soon that the classic is real tight to the chest for him.
Yep.
It's based on qualification. There's things that you have to do to accomplish that dream of getting to the Super Bowl of bass fishing. So we understood that their comments were, we've never given a classic berth to a one event situation, or let alone just a couple events, because we were running 4 events out here, trying to grow our events with our sponsorships and still give away, the 110% payouts on the pro side and great products and things like that. So we knew that maybe there had to be a different angle to approach this, and Trait and Chris Zaldain happened to be a big part of this because they're good friends of mine. They are very passionate about the West, as are all the top sticks that have come from the West, So we kind of worked together, massaged things, some ideas, and then Bass Nation kind of came up, and that started being a focus on how we could utilize Bass Nation to try to give Western anglers a chance to get to the Classic through still a qualification process, because we are very qualification driven. So is Bassmaster, and it makes sense to come up with a plan that would allow guys who fish multiple events out here with Bass a chance to make that road to the Classic, if you will. So we partnered with Bass. We came up, literally I was in Cabo running the Cabo Tuna Jackpot. We've been talking about this seriously since the Classic, when I was out there at the Classic, and got some time with them. But, we kind of, everybody had events going on. I had US Open going on. They had Opens going on. And then I'm in Cabo running the Cabo Tuna Jackpot. Chris Bozer and I are talking. We're throwing out ideas. And we obviously both are trying to get the best opportunity for both of us to utilize. And so it took massaging and figuring out. But ultimately, what the crew over there and what we decided to do is utilize our 5 events, because we are adding Shasta this year. So we truly now have a regional 2 territory event series. So you've got a true north and a true south with the Shasta and Clear Lake up there. And you have Havasu and Meade for the south guys. In the past, we've only had 1 event up north, and it's real hard for the north guys to invest in something that they feel they have to go do 3 events in the desert. Now we have 2 in the north, 2 in the south, true north, true south, with the US Open, culminating the end of the year in the point system. So all 5 of our events are Angler of the Year race events, but the 4 regional events are being utilized by Bass Nation in our partnership, so that the top 5 pros and co's in each of our national or our regional events, like Shasta, Clear Lake, Havasu, and Meade, if you have a WAN Bass membership, a Bass membership, and a Bass Nation membership, prior to that start of that tournament, the top 5 pros and top 5 co-anglers at the end of the event that fit all those qualifications will get a berth into the 2025 Bass Nation Championship, which is a no entry fee tournament for around $300,000 payout. And the top 3 go to the 2026 Bassmaster Classic. So through 4 events, we're giving 20 spots away to pros, 20 spots away to co-anglers to the 2025 Bass Nation Championship, as long as they were qualified prior to the event starting. And to really get all the events behind this, and the guys behind fishing all the events, the top 5 anglers of the year after fishing all 5 events will also get 5 pro and 5 co entries into the 25 Bass Nation Championship, no entry fee. And the top 5 pros on the Angler of the Year after all 5 events get, if you will, e-tickets into the Bass EQs, held spots for the following year.
Which who knows what the hell is going to happen this year, as far as who knows what's going to happen this year to those. That might be valuable going into next year.
It might be really valuable based on what's going on in the industry. Yeah. So they're held spots. Right now there's no financial entry fees, but there's still a lot to announce, still a lot to work on in the last few days here in December to come out with our next big announcement, January 1st, New Year's Day. But, again, so the really cool part of this is now West Coast anglers have a viable tournament circuit, WAN Bass, it's been around for a long time, to fish, for an opportunity to go back east to represent the West. I mean, we're sending, at the end of this, we're going to send 25 of our best sticks and co-anglers to the Bass Nation Championship in 2025. And I know for a fact that they're going to make an impact at that event, and we'll see some of those names at the top.
For those who haven't followed all the changes that have gone on with the Bass Nation Championship is a tournament that used to take 1 angler from each state. You would fish your local club. and then you'd fish your state qualifier. They're all independently run, or were independently run, to determine how you would get your 10-man state team. Then you would go to a regional. Then you take the top angler from that state, from the regional, which would then go to the national championship. Then they would do the top 3 anglers go to the classic, and the top winning national championship angler back-to-back years. Now, God, I can't remember Will Davis. I think it's Will Davis. Yeah, Will Davis Jr. just won his second to go to the classic, or to go to the elite series. So what they're doing is they're completely revamping the Bass Nation this year, to where if you make your state team, you get a guaranteed ticket based on how many anglers you have in your state competing directly to the national championship. The rest of the anglers then go to open regional events. I don't know if that's been announced yet or not, of where those national regional events are, but then like the top percentage of those anglers then go to the national championship. So it goes from like a 55 boat field basically to a 250 boat field. And so what this is doing with WON Bass is giving these guys a direct ticket straight to the national championship. So 25-year anglers will be 3 days away from either A, making the elite series, or B, fishing in the Bassmaster Classic. It's pretty much the most direct route you can get.
Yeah, and it's important to mention that, again, the state teams aren't changing. They're still going to continue to do the state teams. What this relationship, this partnership does is allow our WON Bass guys who may not be Bass Nation guys currently, the ability to become a Bass Nation at-large member from the state that they reside in. So basically, when the guys sign up for our tournaments, they become Bass Nation members. They're going to register with the particular state that they live in with that president. So basically, that president will then, that state's numbers, hopefully through this program, if everybody gets behind it, numbers will grow and people will become more aware of what the Bass Nation program is, and more than welcome to join those teams and to get involved with them in the meetings, but you don't have to. A lot of our Western pros are busy. They own companies, they run businesses, and it doesn't quite fit them to be a part of the Bass Nation or go to meetings or have to fish additional events. But you can be a roaming Bass Nation member and learn more about it. It helps Bass gain more visibility out west through these memberships. And the other aspect of this is that WON Bass now, a regional circuit out west with our own publication company now has a national partner that will be utilizing Bass Times and their own platform to promote our events, our guys that do well at our events, and the story of where it started to where it's going in 2025 Bass Nation, let alone the chance of maybe one of these guys going to the Classic and telling this whole story from start to finish and proving it. It's an amazing opportunity. It's been a lot of work. I'm very proud, of where we've come in the last few years. And I'm very excited about where we're going in the next few years, because this is just the tip of the iceberg for us. I've got a 2 and a 5 year plan. I want to grow WON Bass regions. I want to have 4 regions within the next couple of years, open up a region up in the Southwest up there, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, maybe 2 events up there. The Southwest, maybe New Mexico, Utah, or Elephant Butte, or bring some of those lakes back into the mix so that we have 4 regions, 8 events, plus the U.S. Open. All of a sudden, geez, we got 9 events, and Bassmaster could go, oh, wait a minute. These guys are fishing 9 events just like we're fishing 9 events. And maybe we prove this works. Maybe the Angler of the Year someday down the line at WON Bass goes directly to the Classic and maybe gets invited to the elites, because we're all based on qualification. So who knows? That's the focus. We want to grow fishing tournaments in the West. We want to unite everybody together, because it's the only way it's going to work. Kent Brown, Rick Grover, they've been involved with the industry out here for many years. When I started, my very first event was going to a Bassathon that Rick Grover was putting on, which was a big November event every year. I had just been introduced as the WON Bass tournament director. They walked me over in the corner, pushed me up against the wall, and then they looked at me and they said, if you don't figure out how to make all these organizations work together, it'll never work. So it's been a mission to get people to work together, to have a common goal, and to grow the fishing industry, products, people that fish it, by promoting them, their products, and the story, if you will, as best we can.
I mean, it's not a pipe dream, because you look at what Bass has done with the team series, and they've had relationships. I think it was with the ABA before. We're sending a team series guy to the Classic. We're sending a college angler to the Classic. We've sent WBT women's anglers to the Classic before, so it's definitely something that Bass is open to. More information on this, One Bass, WON, not the number. It's WON, Western Outdoor News, One Bass. Is it onebassevents.com?
Well, it's onebass.com, but
okay.
Back when Mr. Twilliger passed away, we had to create One Bass Events because we couldn't get the key to onebass.com, and then we eventually did. So either website, One Bass Events or onebass.com, go to the same site. And you can, right now, the information, it's a brand new website, which is another thing we're proud of. We now have the ability for anglers to create profiles. They log in with their profile. They can see every event they've signed up. They can see how much money they have in every event, if their membership's up to date, if their address is up to date. But if you scroll back up there, that picture of Ty Al, the picture that says how the West has won or learn how, if you click on that, that has the press release and all the details for now on how to qualify, how it works, where it's going to work, and all the ins and outs. Now, there are a lot of people that are asking a lot of questions, and this is a great platform to kind of answer a few of those. So we've mentioned that we're going to graduate 25 people, 25 pros, 25 co-anglers, 50 total from the 2024 season, kind of how we're going to do it. But we are going to do it to 25. So if these questions have come up, if a guy fishes Shasta and he, for some reason, chose not to do the Bass membership or the Bass Nation membership, and he gets a third place in that tournament, we are going to advance the next guy in line to fill that spot.
That's
if
good.
A guy like a Justin Kerr, if a Justin Kerr goes to Shasta and gets a top 5 and then goes to Clear Lake and gets a top 5, which is likely.
That's what I say. Is he ever not?
Yeah. Then at Clear Lake, where he got the second qualification, he will be knocked out of that 5, and somebody will be advanced into the top 5.
Yep. So you can't double qualify. You're sending 25.
How the circumstances are, we graduate 25 people after the 24 season. So, and then we get to follow those guys. And my job now is to work with our sponsors to figure out ways that we can enhance that experience for those 25 guys. Maybe it's gas cards, maybe it's some, travel money or something like that to help them make the commitment to go. And the beauty of this and the relationship and how we plan this out is once they qualify in 24, they have a whole year to plan this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, oh my God, 3 weeks, I got to go to a championship.
The Bass Nation process is like 2 years by the time you do it to the time you get through it all. Like you're basically a year behind the next. So you should be able to, whether you have to cut a few extra yards or do whatever, hang out at the truck stop, who knows, whatever gets the job done.
Mm-hmm. Instead of putting the cans in the recycle bin, recycle them yourself,
Yeah, and it's just one event too. It's a 3-day event too. It's not like you have to qualify for another thing. You go to the national championship. So congratulations, Billy. That's got to be that's got to feel good to have Bassmaster on your website. I mean, it's
I've been on cloud 9 because it's been something I've been working on for a long time, and it finally came together. And just this weekend we announced it on Tuesday, and I was just relaxing at home, and I clicked on Bassmaster. I'd heard Hank Weldon was going to do a show on Bassmaster Radio about the partnership, and to hear Bassmaster talk about the U.S. Open and about Juan Bass and the accomplishments we've had, it was like, okay, you did good. Things are going well. People have asked me this week, how you doing this week? You're just out and about. There's hospitality week in Laguna Beach and seeing a lot of friends. They're like, how are you? I'm like, I'm on cloud 9.
He went to hospitality weekend at Laguna Beach.
Yeah, it's a night where all the stores stay
fancy.
Open. It is a little fancy. Laguna Beach is great, but all the stores stay open a little late. They all serve wine and cheese, and everybody puts on their Christmas gear, and they close down one street and have a couple bands, and it's like a mini reunion.
Did you have to wear a collared shirt?
No. Well, you don't have to, but a lot of people were actually in their, red Santa hats and outfits, but it was a good time, and just got to see some people I haven't seen in a long time. And it just felt good to know that your efforts and hard work were people have engaged in what you've been doing. They see the dedication and the hard work.
All right, Billy. I got Todd Kline in the queue. I know he knows a thing or two about hospitality weeks at Laguna Beach. He may have hosted one yesterday. He was on the beach doing something. He a big time pro surfer there.
Yeah, I saw him yesterday. We just did a Cast and Crank podcast Christmas fundraiser where everybody brings a toy for kids in the Orange County area. So it was an awesome event. Good to see everybody. A lot of OG swim bait guys. Jerry Rago was there, and had a good time yesterday with them hanging out. And thanks for having me on the show this week. I think I'm on about 2 or 3 other shows this week talking about the partnership and the future of Western bass fishing. And, all I got to say is the West is won.
Ooh, we'll just leave it at that. Thanks, Billy. Appreciate it.
See ya.
All right. That was, and it is the man who makes things happen, Billy Egan, onebass.com for all the information. We're taking our first break of the show. When we come back, Southern California's Todd Kline will join the show. Now, I'm not sure what his plans are heading into the next year. That's kind of why I'm going to have him on, but he's one of these anglers who grinds it out. He's a professional angler on the West Coast. He fishes a lot of the stuff out there, and I'm going to see just kind of from his perspective and from the anglers that he's talked to how big this is for the West Coast anglers. It's BTL, and we'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top one on Strike King.
All right, guys, if you're a construction worker, soccer dad, soccer mom, you want to be outdoors, you've seen the Reaper. This right here is the zip-up full Reaper, but it's windproof, folks, windproof. And it actually has the mast built in. It's behind me. I mean, if you can look good, feel good, and stay warm, you better check it out. It's the zip-up Reaper. That's right, windproof.
Shoreline Boat and RV, dock rash, storm damage, collision repair, that deep scratch or gouge from trying to access that secret creek. Shoreline Boat and RV can get your prized possession back in mint condition and looking good on the water, fast. All repairs are done in-house, so they're able to get your boat or RV back to brand new, quickly. All Shoreline's work comes with a rock-solid warranty. Find out more at ShorelineBoatandRV.com, Kansas City, Austin, and Tulsa. All right, we are back, BTL. Let's bring in California's Todd Kline. Where were you yesterday? Were you hosting like a pro surf competition or something, Todd?
No, yesterday we were at that toy.
Okay, that was the same thing you were at with Billy.
Yeah, the Cast and Crank was basically a toy drive, for Christmas and the kids, the underprivileged kids, and it was awesome just to be able to give back, but shake hands, kiss baby, see a lot of friends, and see the latest and greatest in some of the swim bait world.
Last time I really talked with you, you were hanging out with Ryan Scheckler.
Yeah.
Or you were at the event.
I saw him at an event, and
that counts.
I did announce a surf competition on Saturday, which was pretty cool.
Awesome. You obviously were there for most of what Billy just announced. Now, listen, I'm not going to go into it in the show. There's been a lot of stuff that's gone down on the West Coast as far as tournaments. The Apex Series is no more. There's a new tournament organization with that's coming back there. Billy won B.A.S.S, seems to be the pillar that survives everything. Now with this thing with B.A.S.S, kind of talk a little bit about what the West Coast Anglers vibe is. Did this create a buzz in the tournament scene when it was announced now that there's a direct path to the Bass Nation Championship?
Yeah, no, it's massive news, I believe, out here. I know I personally feel that way, and a lot of the anglers I've spoken with feel the same way. Anytime you even like you mentioned it earlier, it's a carrot. It's a massive carrot. To know you actually, I'll say, have a potential chip in a chair at the biggest poker tournament in the world. That's all you can ask for. And Billy and the crew over at B.A.S.S have now given us that opportunity in partnership with B.A.S.S. So it's massive news. They've also, made that addition with one more event on the tour for us out here in the West, which is also, again, just more opportunity for us. And, I think that's what anyone, whether you're a fisherman or anything in life, opportunity is a big word. And that's all you can ask for is the opportunity. It's up to you to capitalize on it.
Attendance or participation has always been an issue on the West Coast. Do you think that this is going to really boost the numbers in tournaments for all of these tournaments, considering you don't have to fish them all? From what I understand, you could fish one, and if you finish in the top 5, you get that direct entry into the national championship. Do you think there's going to be a massive increase in guys who are fishing these things and make sure that they're a member of the Bass Nation and a member of WON-Bass and have all their let's say I make this right, T's crossed and I's dotted?
I do, Matt. I think already the numbers were pretty substantial out here. One's always been the leader. I think part of the reason for that is the camaraderie between the co-angler and the boater, because it's a shared weight format. So it's very inviting for both parties. But now just to have even more opportunity for us out here in the West, I do think we'll see a substantial jump. You touched on it too. One of the other organizations no longer out here, so not diluting the water as much, and really now there's just 2 major platforms that lead to the highest at each level, being the MLF and then the B.A.S.S, which that's all you can ask for.
Have you decided what you're going to jump in next year yet?
I'm fortunate to have the backing that I do from a sponsorship standpoint. So I'm going to do both of them, MLF and WON-Bass. I didn't fish all the WON-Basses this year because unfortunately the first AZ Open got canceled due to wind, and then it wasn't overlapping, but it was kind of overlapping when it came to the practice for the makeup date on the AZ Open. So I didn't fish that last one, but I will absolutely fish all of them on both sides next year, MLF and WON-Bass.
How many U.S. Opens have you fished?
It's a great question, because I did quite a few from the back of the boat too. From the front, I'm going to say 5.
Yeah. That's a big deal to the West Coast guys specifically, isn't it? I mean,
there's
not anyone who tournament fishes who doesn't follow that.
I mean, it's the biggest out here for us on a couple levels. One, it's obviously got a massive prize purse. First place being, right around 100,000 plus, let's say, I'm gonna estimate up because that's what we do as bass anglers, but $100,000 bass boat as well. So that's massive. That's a big opportunity. And then the other, the big thing that I think personally myself and a lot of the other anglers out here, to be the best, you got to fish against the best. And we get a lot of the top guys that will make that drive to come out because they know there is that opportunity. And I think now with this announcement, we could potentially see even more. So, it's definitely, it's the biggest event we have in the West, no doubt.
I think what I didn't understand until I really talked to some guys out there is how big the West is. So like, take this. You could be in Alabama, and if you're in the middle of Alabama, you can drive to Arkansas, you could drive to Georgia. You're 10 hours from all the lakes in Florida. You got all the TVAs around you. You can be in 8 hours. You can be out to the Carolinas. Like, it's all right there. If you're in NorCal and they have a tournament anywhere, I mean, you can drive 13, 14 hours and still be in the same state.
Yeah.
In California. And that's a big logistics nightmare when you're trying to make all these guys happy, from where you are to the guys up in Northern California, to Arizona, to New Mexico, to Utah, Oregon, Washington. Like, you're talking about a lot of real estate to try to figure out where to put these derbies to get everybody to attend.
Yeah, no, I mean, Billy's got his work cut out, and he touched on some good points now, having 2 in the north, 2 in the yep. south, if you will, to try and keep it balanced. That way, it doesn't feel like it's favored one way or the other. But yeah, when I went back to the MLF championship this year, I was fortunate to fly into North Carolina, pick up a boat and truck, and still drive 15 hours, but it saved me about 15 hours one way, which is mind blowing.
That's
so to your point. I mean, yeah, coming from the north to the south is a massive drive. But keeping our looking at the guys from the west to try and make those national championships. I mean, you're looking at 30 hours one way. It's a massive commitment, and hats off to all the guys that continue to do it and support MLF at that top level, because there is so much opportunity at that event as well.
All right. I would be remiss if I didn't mention, so at the beginning of the year, you sent me 3 pairs of shades. I had you on the show, and I will say this, I wanted to get a year under my belt with them. So I've got 2. Last month I stepped on the 3rd pair at the bottom of the boat. It's no longer with us. I mean, I demolished them. You ever done that where, like, as soon as you did something, like you stepped on something, but then you put your full weight and you're like, what the heck was that? And then you're like, oh, I wish anyway.
The worst is when you're looking for them and then you hear something pop and you don't even look down because you know exactly what it was.
Yeah, I crushed it. But I got the 2 pairs of the electrics, and I am sold on these things. So thank you for sending those to me.
My pleasure. Glad to hear you're still rocking them.
Extremely thrilled, extremely pleased with them. And whatever color that is, it's the one you can kind of see through. So I'm a little nervous to wear them because I hate the sunglasses where you can barely see the people's eyes. I think it looks a little creepy, like when they're looking at you.
Especially when you're looking at the ladies, that are there attending those weigh-ins. I understand what you're doing, Matt.
The dock frogs is the terminology. Anyway, you were like, hey, wear these things early and then don't take them off the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And I've done that, and it's like the only shade that I wear now. It's like is that called an amber, or what is that one?
No, that one's the low light yellow. And that low light yellow, that term, I'll use it loosely. It's like yesterday when we attended that event, the toy drive. Majority of those guys were, the big bait guys, the swim bait guys. That's their favorite lens as well, because the bottom line is it's the best sight lens out there. And as throwing those glides and stuff, you got to see how the bass are reacting. And so sometimes, it's the twitch pause or whatever you need to do to get that bite, but you got to see it to make it happen.
Yeah. But anyway, I just thank you for sending me those. That's great. Customer service. There's that one. It's kind of like a square. Oh, here's the other thing. This is probably not good. Oh no, I took the cups off it. I have them in my in the middle of my boat, and if it's sunny out, I'll actually wear these. But I wanted some like a daytime deal, like the cool shades.
Yeah.
But I also I have been very impressed. I am very bad about putting the sunglasses back in the case that they came in. Actually, I have no idea where any of the 3 cases that they came in are, and I just toss them in my glove box, and then they float around. Very scratch resistant too, which I was very, very fond to find that out. Like, I mean, I don't have any major scratches, and these things have been like banging around with stuff they shouldn't be banging around with.
They're pretty durable for sure. Yeah, they're pretty durable.
So anyway, electrics, if you guys are looking for a pair for Christmas, would highly recommend those.
Yep. Electric
Thank
fishing.
you for the hookup. Yep.
Appreciate the shout out.
Anything else you want to get in here before I let you go, Todd? Like, I mean, what numbers are we talking about? Like, are we talking 200 in every one of these things, do you think?
Well, and that's something I'll talk to Billy about. We should have put his feet to the fire on that. Is he actually going to hold the line?
Billy's still here. There's Billy. Bring his feet to the fire. Billy's still been watching. We'll bring him back in. You got questions for Billy. There's Billy.
Yeah. Let's put the feet to the fire, Billy. So I see on the website 200 capped. Are we going to cap it, or when we get to the 200, go, hey, it looks mighty appetizing to get to 225?
I know I've done that in the past, but now with this carrot, it's 200 max. So
all right, make sure that record button's on there, Matt, so we can play back on them.
I mean, are you optimistic that these things are all going to cap out?
So to your point, Matt,
I swear by this bass book that it's 200 bucks.
So to your point, Matt, I think let's be honest too. This is going to be a tricky year for the industry as a whole. Things are definitely slowing down a little bit with the economy. Groceries are through the roof. Gas is through the roof. So the timing couldn't have been better on a lot of levels for Billy and WON Bass, because otherwise we probably would have seen the numbers go down. I'm going to say on my end, if we can at least maintain where we were last year, and probably will see a jump, I think he did fantastic, because I think around the nation we'll probably see some dips in a lot of the numbers, and then in hopes that 25 we really crank it up. But who knows? I know there's a lot of buzz out there right now. Even yesterday at that event, people were talking about it. I know my buddies, a lot of us have already got our deposits in, because if you get to that 200, and then we heard it right there, Billy said he will keep his heels in the ground. The line is in the sand. You're not getting in, and you don't get in, you don't have a chip in a chair. So when the cards are dealt, you're watching in the bleachers.
And aren't the deposits like super reasonable, Billy? Is it similar to like the US Open where you kind of can get in and hold it, but you're not out billions of dollars?
Yeah, basically you can get in as an amateur. $100 deposit will hold your spot. A $200 deposit on the pro side will hold your spot. We don't like keeping people's money if they don't use it. So we either transfer the money to another event or we refund, because, at the end of the day, these anglers are our customers. We want them to be happy. We're not here to hold their money or make money off these anglers just because they weren't able to fish an event. So big thing with us is communication. If you got a deposit in and for some reason something comes up and you can't fish, give me enough time to figure it out so I can find a replacement. But, a key factor to this is the amateur side of what we have. Like Todd had mentioned, the atmosphere with our events, it's a lot more conducive. I think I haven't looked at the numbers, but I'm pretty positive. I looked at the numbers between the organizations that run non-shared weight versus us that wear shared weight. We have a higher graduation level of amateurs that are switching over to the pro side, because the education process on a shared weight event is much more rapid than it is on a non-shared weight. These pros are helping these co-anglers become their own pros and want to chase the dream themselves, which then lends to buying a new bass boat, new motor, new rods, reels, lures, and keeping this industry sustainable through teaching these amateurs or younger kids or people who are not real familiar with it. And what I found at that show, Todd, was that there were a lot of guys who'd never fished bass tournaments that heard about the news that wanted to find out how to get involved with events because they'd like to learn more.
Matt, you fished US Open before, right?
Yeah, one.
So how many shared weight events have you done? Not team, but like at a level like this. So
one.
So,
it was epic. It was the greatest thing ever. I would not fish one. If I fished one, like if I was to jump in an Open as a co or a Toyota series or whatever,
yeah.
I would be scared to fish. Not I don't have it against anyone else, but I just know how much impact it could have. I would basically take 2 rods and sit there, but I was like all in 18 when I fished it. Like I was all in on it because I knew that, like, my biggest thing was, what if I lose one? And sure enough, with Matt Sure, I hook a 5-pounder on a Ned and I'm on the front deck high-fiving him. And he's like, what do you need? And I'm like, just get out of my way, son. And I'm fighting this thing and it pulls off. And I've never felt so bad in my life. Cause I mean, I cost like Matt Sure, like $8,000. He wouldn't have won. But other than that, like, I mean, it's the greatest thing ever to fish out as a AAA. Because anytime your co-catches one, you're rooting for them because that's weight for you. And anytime you catch one, the guy like loves you. He makes you look like you're freaking Kevin Van Dam in the front. You know how it is. You fished it because here's like a bonus, 3-pounder or 2-pounder or whatever. Yeah. It's the way to do it in a lot of scenarios, in my opinion. Now, would I want to do that in a Bassmaster Open where I've got $40,000 of my own money to qualify for a Bassmaster Elite Series? No. Absolutely not. That would be an absolute nightmare because then a lot of the future depends on your draw. Does it work in this scenario?
Oh, yes. Question for you though, Matt. So, because in the Opens, they do have co's, right?
Yeah.
So at least if the guy does catch a 6 from the back, it is going to help you. So the point I want to make, when I fish those Opens, I don't expect the guy to do anything, right? Other than have fun. But I'm going to tell the guy, it's basically a glorified guide trip. I'm going to tell him exactly what we're fishing, how to fish it. I'm going to tie his bait on there. I'm going to have an extra one for him. I'm going to do everything I can. In the first 10, 20 minutes, I'm going to see, is the guy legit? I'm going to keep trying to help him, or is he kind of just shut it down and let him do his thing, and I'm going to fish, right? So I just think, it's got so many benefits to, especially as you touched on the amateur side, for that guy to learn at a rapid rate. But also on my end, it's like, I'm not expecting the guy to get anything, but if he does, hallelujah, high fives, I'm going to give him shout outs, whatever. But I just think it's a win-win on both sides, because most of the guys on the MLF side, super cool, never going to have an issue. But I've had a few instances where a guy's firing up on the isolated little rock pile you got, and now you have to figure out, I have to barely reach this thing so that guy can't reach it from the back, and it's just awkward as heck.
And I do want to point this. There's some guys that are like, well, I don't want to like at a Bassmaster Open in that deal, I don't. But if you look at the names that are at the top of the leaderboard in shared weight formats out west, they're the guys who have kicked everybody's ass in solo tournaments, in co-angler boater tournaments. You don't see a guy who is just hot garbage on the water, get 3 non-boater draws, and all of a sudden win the U.S. Open. They're guys who win regardless. They're around fish. They're around winning fish. And they're AAA might add a key fish here or two, but it doesn't diminish the talent of the angler in the front. Like I said, for that format, I think it's fantastic. You're smiling, Billy. Am I wrong on that?
No, it's awesome. The experience, the friendships, the lifelong relationships from angler to angler that have forged through the 14 years I've been doing it. These guys, they have a blast doing it. They can't wait to get back and do it again. Even the U.S. Open. I mean, like I told Matt, Todd, that this year's U.S. Open by far was the best event we've ever run in every aspect possible. It was firing on all cylinders, and every one of you guys would have gone back out a fourth day to start all over because the energy of that event. And we have that energy at all the events because of that positive engagement between the anglers, I believe.
Todd, is this what the West Coast needed right now?
Absolutely. It felt like just everything was kind of slowing down, and now there's something new out there with a major opportunity, major platform that you want to try and get to. I think there's revitalized energy in the West, and I think we're going to see it. We touched on it a little bit, but I think we will see at least some sort of a jump in the numbers, and hopefully this first one will rattle some cages and get right up to that 200 mark and kind of set the tone for the year. That way we do have massive turnouts for every single one of them, because only benefits all parties. And I think, in closing, the biggest thing I want to say, Matt, is that this is a big commitment from B.A.S.S. And now is our opportunity as anglers here in the West to step up and show that, yes, we are ready for this opportunity. We are ready to support you guys. Good to have you guys coming back to the West to support us. Now as anglers, it's kind of a call out to all you guys. Let's step up and support them. So thanks again, Billy, for giving us the opportunity.
Yep. It's now your opportunity, guys. All you anglers have wanted something like this. We finally have it. Let's prove it. Let's get things rolling and make this a long-term relationship where everything always just increases, can only go up from here. But it's up to you guys, the anglers, to get involved and to back it.
Anything else, guys? I think this has been an awesome show. I mean, now look at it. Yep.
I just want to say thank you very much. And the other is, I know you came out here, you hooked up with your buddies from AFCO, and you went surfing. You didn't call me. Next time, you better call me, because
I will. Listen, I'll be out there December 20th through 23rd.
We almost connected. When are you coming?
December 20th through 23rd.
Okay, I will be here.
Both of us. I'll go fish.
Hey, I am all in on that. Like, this is my girlfriend Courtney is from OC, from the Orange County, like born and raised. Her parents are beach bums. They grew up on the beach. They got 6 kids.
Beach?
There's a bunch of beaches down there.
Billy might be able to get you into one of those high-end wine tasters that he was at 2 days ago.
Oh, the Laguna Beach hospitality night?
Whatever.
Is that similar to the Catalina wine mixer? Is that like the Catalina wine mixer?
Wine and cheese mixer.
I do know a few people out here. Matt, if you want to do something, hit me up. Let me know.
No, I am all in on it. I will say this. In Oklahoma, you think SoCal, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's going to be an interesting trip. You get there, it is kick-ass. It is like laid back. There's amazing beach access everywhere. Everyone's mellow. Yeah, they all drive $200,000 cars, but everyone's super nice. It's a really cool part of the country, and I was massively pleasantly surprised. I did look like a beached whale in my wetsuit with Casey Shed, and I didn't get up, and it was probably one of the top 5 most embarrassing moments when he started towing me while he was paddling me out. And in between saltwater, I had to be like, I don't want to get out there if I can't paddle out myself. And he's
Matt,
like, okay, well, it's going to take half an hour, but I got out there myself.
I will get you to your feet. I promise.
Really?
Promise.
And we don't all drive $200,000 cars. I got a 340,000 mile Toyota Tacoma that I'm about ready to hand off to my son. So hopefully Toyota's listening and we can talk soon.
And that thing's lowered, right, Billy?
Yeah, it's like a stink bug right now.
Here's what I want to do. So one of the places we went, there's no one who just gave it away. Where we were surfing, there was literally a guy catching halibut from the shore, like on the same time.
I know where you were.
So we were surfing. You're not allowed to say it was top secret, but it's apparently like the bunny hills of skiing for surfing is what I was told. Where we were surfing, like we're out of the water, it's like kaploo, and like in between whatever you call them, sets, waves, the guy was reeling in halibut. And I'm like, dude, if I could stand up on a board and catch a halibut within an hour from the same stretch of beach, that's a good day.
Yeah, I used to fish all the time off of a soft top, catching calicos until I was out solo one day and I heard something breach and I figured, okay, probably a seal, maybe a bird diving. And I looked around, never saw anything again. I said, you know what? Probably not the best idea reeling calicos at you when there's great whites that are cruising around. The other thing I had one time was a calico coming hot at me, and I had just a wetsuit jacket on, and I was fishing a hard bait, and it came across and jumped and stuck on my chest for a second, and then it luckily ripped out. But I thought to myself, what if I had all these trebles with a fish stuck to my chest? I couldn't lay down to paddle in, and I'm out there sitting, 150 yards off the beach. I was like, I got to kind of maybe think the hard bait thing over again as well.
At least you know how to do the string technique now.
String? Oh, yeah.
Did you stick one in? Did you go past the barb?
He took a 2-aught out of my finger when we went swim baiting years ago at Diamond Valley. I had a 2-aught stuck in my knuckle.
Like past, those are big hooks.
You could see the hook go through the knuckle and the point underneath my fingernail. It was pretty good.
Don't worry, Matt. Dr. Kline got it. Dr. Kline got it.
Well, thanks for having us on the show.
I enjoyed it. It was a heck of a show, guys.
Yep. Thank you, Matt. And congrats again, Billy. Thank you for the opportunity.
You got it, Todd.
All right. See you guys.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right. There you go. Todd Kline and Billy Egan. Yeah, Billy was just hanging out doing some work in the office when Todd had the question. I was like, hell, he's still on. Why not bring him back in? So that was a great. I do want to have Billy on. There's got to be some sort of statute of limitations as a tournament director with 14 years. He mentioned what happened. I think it was 2010, that first year, which is a wild story and very easily could have been the end of things if not handled correctly. And also during that time, working for Jeffries, who had the B.A.S.S owned message board, that was the wild, no pun intended, the Wild West of message board days. So, I mean, that was like everybody was on message boards with thousands of threads. Like that was like, I monitored Mark Jeffries' message board on B.A.S.S owned strictly to try to delete the meet me in the parking lot comments. Like there was message boards were big back then, but great show. Really cool now that the West, now it's not as represented still as it could be or should be. And you can say, hey, that's because of participation. You could say that's because of money or why not. But now there's a path to the top level of MLF with the Toyota series out there. Obviously the US Open with one B.A.S.S and the top level of B.A.S.S now with this affiliation between one B.A.S.S and Bassmasters. So the path does exist with the two major organizations. So, all right, that's all we got for today. Same place, same time tomorrow. We'll talk to everybody then. See ya.